This week on Home and Away in Australia, Remi is led down a dark path by Avalon. Remi's new professional relationship with Avalon Bracken could prove to be his downfall this week, when she tempts him with a little something to perk him up. Remi first crossed paths with Avalon whilst he and Kirby were at a recording studio, laying down vocals for Kirby's new solo album. Avalon had been in one of the adjacent studios and was intrigued by what she heard, inviting herself into the control room where Remi was overseeing things. Kirby was thrown by Avalon's presence after spotting her through the window, knowing exactly who she was. Kirby explained that her ex-manager Forrest had made her listen to Avalon's debut album several times when Kirby had her first crack at a solo career, having been the big thing at the time. Although Avalon was full of praise for what she'd heard of Kirby's song, Kirby was immediately put offside when she went on to suggest it could do with some backing vocals for more depth. After Kirby dropped a not-so-subtle hint that Avalon was crashing their session, Avalon took the hint and made herself scarce, leaving Remi bemused at Kirby's attitude. Kirby explained that back when she was working with Forrest, he'd made it clear that Avalon was her main competition and she still sees her as such. Later that evening, after Kirby had left, Avalon found Remi alone in the studio letting rip on his guitar. Suitably impressed, Avalon invited Remi for a drink with some fellow musos, but Remi politely declined. Before she left, Avalon pointed out that Remi looked like he was having far more fun as a musician than he had been behind the mixing desk. Kirby's suspicions were raised further the next day when they walked in to find Avalon going through their session notes, claiming she was just looking for some takeaway menus. Kirby was adamant that Avalon was looking to steal the song she was working on, but it later seemed that Avalon actually had something else in mind. As Remi later asked Avalon to keep her distance from Kirby, she agreed to on one condition, that Remi would play on her new album. Revealing it as the reason she's been going through the paperwork, Avalon pointed out that Remi was only producing Kirby's album and wasn't actually credited with playing on it. As such, she saw no issue with asking Remi to put his talents to use by being a featured artist on her own album. Remi eventually agreed, but is yet to tell Kirby of his moonlighting. It's already clear that Remi will have to burn the candle at both ends, after admitting to Justin that after a full day in the studio with Kirby, and feeling completely wiped out, he'd be heading back there later that evening. This week, as TV Week reports, Remi realizes that although he remains loyal to Kirby, Avalon's album is now the one eating up most of his energy, and Kirby is beginning to notice. When Kirby finally snaps and demands that Avalon back off, Remi manages to smooth things over with some much-needed reassurance, and Kirby reluctantly accepts his apology, hoping he'll start putting her first again. Later that evening, Avalon reappears and is clearly in the mood to party. Remi, however, is running on fumes and barely keeping his eyes open. Hoping to pull him out of his slump, Avalon pulls out a small sachet and casually suggests it might give him the boost he needs. Remi brushes off the offer, insisting that he's not going down that route, though doesn't rush to hand it back either. Will Remi be tempted to turn to drugs?